I'm Tom Bugnano. I'm the CEO and President of Community Health Charities of America. And along with my compatriots, Steve Elfin from America's Charities, and Cal Stein from Earthshare, Scott Jackson from Global Impact, we would like to welcome you to this conference. Again, for 11 years, we've been sponsoring this conference for one reason, the same reason you're here today, and that is to listen, to learn, and to share. And we're excited about that. We're excited about the attendance. We're excited that all of you are here, and the design team, as usual, has done a terrific job. This conference is designed, I think those of you that have been here before, perhaps this is your first time, just have to remember the 3 I's. This conference is designed to be intimate, interactive, and informative. It's designed so that you have plenty of time to really get into the topics, to talk to each other in a safe environment, to share ideas, to transmit best practices, and to go back to your place of employment and continue the important work that you're doing every day. This is your conference, and it was designed by many of you. And the first thing I would like to do, though, is to thank our sponsors, in particular our presenting sponsor, J.P. Morgan Chase, Michael Karen, who I believe is in the other room. He's filming right now, but Michael, thank you very much. And also want to thank, obviously, the folks that also have helped provide this conference, AmeriGives, Booz Allen Hamilton, CSR Wire, and the James Group. And the most important thing, thank you, is to get started on time, and that's what I'm going to do. My main job is to introduce our keynote speaker this morning. And as I was going over the notes, it strikes me that today's employers hold very high expectation of their employers, of you in this room. In choosing their employer, key considerations have to be made in the decision-making that goes on every day that includes a company's commitment to philanthropy, its culture of giving, and the opportunities it presents to its employees to be engaged in the community. Now that presents a great competitive challenge in recruiting and retaining great talent, which is the subject matter of our opening address. Betty Thompson is the Senior Vice President for Booz Allen Hamilton and serves as the firm's Chief Personnel Officer. In addition to leading and managing the day-to-day human resource functions that serve Booz Allen's 25,000 member network of associates, Betty is the driving force behind the firm's people strategy. Booz Allen's people strategy focuses on workplace planning, talent management, critical skills and expertise, and again, the reason we're here, employee engagement. Betty understands these competitive challenges well. She'll share her insights into the challenges that Booz Allen faces in recruiting and retaining the very best in-class talent, and how Booz Allen values commitment to philanthropy and how it supports employee engagement. So no further ado, I'd like you all to welcome our keynote speaker, Betty Thompson.
Thank you. I think it's always a great sign when it's hard to get the room to quiet down and get started with the meeting. That means that you all enjoy being together and very excited to be here. So I am as well. I am here because Steve Delphin invited me. Steve and I have known each other a long time. In fact, I was thinking the reason that we know each other is because of community service. My husband was the coach of his son's Little League team. So there's all those connections you can make. But I'm really happy to be here to talk about building a culture of engagement that attracts and retains talent. And in our business, that's critical because what we sell, if you will, is people and the human capital that they have inside their heads. And at Booz Allen, our support for and commitment to community service is key to our employee engagement. And I'm going to talk a lot about that. Our culture has deep roots as it relates to community service. In fact, it's one of our core values, and I found a quote from one of our founders, and our firm is almost a century old, and one of the founding partners said, his name was James Allen, activity and participation, those are the keys. There are plenty of things in which to participate, community affairs, schools, clubs, welfare organizations, professional and industry groups. Choose wisely, but participate. And our current chairman, Ralph Schrader, said, there's a lot of evidence to say that the most successful companies today are the ones that incorporate aspects of good corporate citizenship into their business practices every day. And that is why it is one of our core values. And we believe that people that are successful at Booz Allen bring all of that and passion for their communities and their client work through the door every day. Let me first give you a little bit of background. I don't know how much you know about Booz Allen, but as I mentioned, we are almost a century old, and we have developed a strong reputation for delivering exceptional management and technology consulting to serve our clients. And we measure our success by their success and the excellence of our people and the spirit of partnership. Booz Allen attracts, retains, and develops some of the brightest individuals. But what we look for are those that exhibit brains, experience, enthusiasm, and most of all, heart. Our workforce is about 25,000 employees. We have grown tremendously over the last several years. In fact, we've had fairly explosive growth. And we are primarily based in the U.S., serving the U.S. Federal government, although we do commercial consulting as well and have a deep heritage in that. We have been widely recognized as an employer of choice, most recently being named to the Fortune magazine's 2012 list of the most admired companies. GI Jobs top 100 military-friendly employees in the top 10 of that list. We've been named over and over again to the 100 best companies for working mothers. And one that we received recently that's related to community service, we were named to the Business Community of the Arts list of 10 best companies supporting the arts in America in 2011. And that's an award that's given each year that honors businesses for their exceptional commitment to the arts through grants, local partnerships, volunteer programs, matching gifts, sponsorship, and board memberships. But we do have quite a long list of recognition that we get as an employer of choice, which branding is important, and community services is a way that is an opportunity for branding as well. When we talk about the challenges in this environment, so we've had explosive growth up until this past year. We had double-digit growth for the last 15 years up until this past fiscal year. And it's been double-digit growth in the 15 to 18% range. So very, very successful, really grew a lot over those years. But then everything kind of came to a screeching halt. And while we continue to grow, we're growing in the mid-single digits now, which is a big difference for us. And it's a challenge in terms of the opportunities for our staff, because the way that consulting works is you build your business and therefore you get promoted because you brought more business to the firm. And so with slower growth comes fewer opportunities, and opportunities for our competitors, including our clients, to take our staff away from us. So we intend to keep as many of them as we can. Consulting has a tendency to have a relatively high turnover. Ours is sort of in the lower end of the spectrum, but still any turnover is something that we get concerned about, and it's something we're paying a lot of attention to as the economy, or at least our government clients, slow down their spending. The economy is recovering, however, at least that's what we're hearing, and we're seeing a little bit of that. And what that means is that people who were waiting, holding out to look for other top opportunities are now having those. And so retention and then competing for that talent is critically important. We have had challenges with the federal government. You all read the papers. If you live in the Washington area, that's all we talk about. But the government, there are budget cuts that are coming, budget cuts that have happened. There are all of these government shutdown, scares that we've had. And our clients, although they've got contracts funded, we've won the work, they are reluctant to actually spend the money. They're holding on to it so that they can keep their staff employed. They're insourcing. The whole game around government contracting has changed. The multi-year, multi-million-dollar contracts are now shorter awards, and there's much more competition for them. And there's also insourcing that the government is doing. So that's where they take our staff that are there doing consulting work and they hire them away from us. So attracting and retaining our employees amidst all of this change is a key priority for us, because we believe having the best talent will differentiate us and serve us well in terms of competing for the business. In general, I would say the greatest challenge for us is not attracting employees, because we have a great value proposition. But instead, our challenge is attracting certain types of employees with certain types of skills. And despite the challenges in the economy and unemployment being higher than it has been in the past, We have critical roles that are hard to fill because the talent is hard to find. In fact, it's a needle in a haystack often, and we can't afford to just pay, at any price. And in fact, we don't think that's a good strategy. First of all, it's not sustainable. It doesn't actually motivate people at the end of the day, and if that's the reason they come, particularly to a firm like ours, they won't stay because it's just not going to be compelling enough for them. So our ability to have a more compelling proposition than just what we pay people is critically important. In looking at our workforce, our focus on retention has remained a key priority, and we recognize that the improving economic conditions will create additional challenges for us. We're paying attention to those that are leaving and why they're leaving and trying to address those concerns, but we're also concerned about the passive candidates, those that weren't intending to leave, that get those phone calls that they return, our competitors as well as our clients, as I mentioned, attracting them away from us. So we've implemented a lot of different solutions, one being great flexibility, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We also provide a lot of training, a lot of mobility for people to move their careers inside of the firm. So those are all important tactics for us to be able to retain our staff. But staff expect more from employers, and you mentioned that when you were in the introductory remarks. And there are some shifts that are changing. By the end of this decade, there will be 5 generations in the workforce, and they all expect different things based on where they are in their life and in their careers. And of course, there are more women than ever in the workforce. So we found that these employees expect different things based on where they are in their life, what the demands are, and what's going on for them. And our own internal research shows that the reasons that people come to the firm may not be the reasons that they stay or the reasons that they leave. So staying on top of what's motivating staff and what's important to them. And our focus on community involvement is key in terms of our attraction as well as retention. In addition to the excellent work and exceptional people, a differentiator for us is our spirit of service, which is the third leg of our employee value proposition. And in it, we clearly state that the firm will provide recognition of exceptional people for their contributions, opportunities to serve our communities as well as our clients. And what we expect from staff is that they'll take pride in working hard to deliver outstanding results and wanting to make a difference and do the right things inside and outside of Booz Allen. Our employees tell us that the value to them of many that they cite is the reason why they come and why they stay. And enabling our workforce to participate in community service reaps many, many benefits. For example, many of our junior staff, those coming either with a few years of experience or right out of school, they're already very active in their communities. And they look for that as soon as they walk in the door. They want opportunities to serve in leadership roles. And when they come into the firm, they're not necessarily going to be able to do that inside the workplace, but they can do that in their community service work. They get leadership opportunities in the form of managing a project, managing teams, managing people, budgets. And those are experiences that prepare them to better serve our clients inside of Booz Allen. Similarly, they get opportunities to develop their skills around teamwork and collaboration, which are also part of our core values. Our community involvement also has benefits in terms of our business. When the base realignment and closure, which is called BRAC, that's where the military were consolidating their bases, when that went into effect, we made a strategic choice to increase our presence in San Antonio because that's where a lot of the work was going, that's where a lot of our clients were moving to. But we didn't have a brand there, we weren't recognized, nobody knew who we were, Booz Allen, they didn't know what we were as an employer. And so we really focused on community service as a way to get our name out there. And in a few short years, with the leadership that was on site there and the people that we hired, we became known for our community involvement. We have red volunteer shirts that are seen all over San Antonio, and it really is the way that we became recognized as somebody that had a great reputation for working in the community. San Antonio also was fortuitous, not necessarily in a good way for them, but it was helpful for us to be able to step into a void. One of the largest corporate entities there moved their headquarters, not their staff, but their headquarters, which is really where a lot of their philanthropic dollars came from, moved to Houston. So they were very concerned about the impact that was going to have in their community. So it did create an opportunity for us to step in and fill that void. 2 years ago, when I talked about flexibility, we created a flexibility in terms of work location. And our mantra to staff became work where you live. And essentially, with the exception of staff that have to be on client site for contract requirements, they can work from anywhere. And that's been a great benefit. But it also has created a lot of dispersion of the workforce, so you're not necessarily sitting next to the people that are working on the same project as you. So again, community service was a way for those staff to get together and form some kind of affinity with each other and a networking opportunity, also giving them an opportunity to interact with leaders that were in those locations. So it became a great strength in the community where we made an effect because that's where they lived, and now it was also where they worked. And the notion of work-life balance does enter the equation, again, based on where people are in their lives. But regardless, people not only want work-life balance as it relates to taking care of their children, taking care of other dependents, pets, whatever, they want an opportunity to have the time to work in their communities. And we're finding that more and more. We're calling it work-life integration. And that's why we think that having this connected to our business and people being able to work in their communities and supporting those efforts are important. But either way, they don't want the traditional 8-hour day. They want the flexibility to be able to work, but also communicate, to contribute to the communities in which they live. Booz Allen's corporate citizenship is driven by our employees. It's very employee-centric. Employees, we will support anything employees want to get involved with. Excuse me. Their passion for wanting to make a positive and sustainable impact on their communities is what's important to us. And that impact goes beyond financial support. Really, where we make a difference in the nonprofits that we work with is we focus on their mission. What's going to make them more effective? And that's where our consulting skills come in. So again, there's a real linkage to what we do in our workplace and what we do with our clients and what we do with our nonprofits. And we do about 50 pro bono projects a year. So in addition to the volunteer activity during work hours and supported with the firm's dollars, we do pro bono activities. And it really is the people that identify the causes that they care about that we get involved with. There are really no rules around what you can and cannot do. So it is 1,000 points of light. But there's also things that we do as a firm so that for people who want to get connected but they haven't gotten involved with something yet, there are things that they can do, whether it's Neediest Kids, Toys for Tots, things like that. Excuse me, let me get that. An integral part of Booz Allen's culture is community-based and philanthropic initiatives, both support and complement the firm's business development goals. These opportunities reinforce the firm's brand in the marketplace, strengthen client relationships, build staff competencies, and extend the firm's core values and thought leadership into the community and demonstrate the firm's commitment to corporate and social responsibility. Our nonprofit partnerships span all aspects: arts and culture, community, environmental and sustainability, health and human services, youth education. And we're very focused because we hire a lot of people from the military in supporting wounded warriors and our veterans. Over the past 3 years, Booz Allen has contributed 10,000 hours in pro bono work, which represents 50 projects, as I mentioned, but it's multi-million dollars worth of market value. I mentioned earlier that a component of our value proposition is recognizing people who make exceptional contributions. And we take this very seriously. We have an annual, we call it our Oscar ceremony, if you will. It's the Booz Allen Excellence Awards. And we recognize the top client-focused efforts, diversity efforts, and community service. And there's really only one for each of those categories for the entire firm. And it's a very robust process. Our chairman and CEO is the chairman of the committee that reviews the submissions. I am on the committee as well, with 7 or 8 other partners. And we have submissions, usually is about 70 or 80 submissions to start with, and we down select from there. And we end up with usually about 5 or 6 in each category. And we do what we call a due diligence. So I get assigned a couple of those, it's usually more than one. And I go and I interview people to see if I can substantiate the claims that were made in the submission. And I have had the pleasure of doing several of the community service ones over the last 4 years. And it is, it just fills you with pride to hear what folks are working on. Last year, there was a submission about a pro bono project. So it can be community service in the sense that it's all volunteer time, or it can be a pro bono project. But it was a pro bono project for Wounded Warrior. It was a mini campaign which started in 2007. And a lot of these projects are very long because you have to demonstrate, you have to demonstrate that you've had real and tangible impact. And so sometimes it takes quite a while to accomplish that. But the campaign was focused on helping our clients that had responsibility for the care and support of military personnel, veterans, and their families. And this quickly evolved into a comprehensive and integrated portfolio of community service activities in addition to the pro bono work. And the reason for that was because staff really wanted to hands-on help these veterans and wounded warriors and their families. And these activities created unique opportunities for staff to gain not only a deep understanding of the client, but also the challenges of the community that our clients were serving. And the volunteer and pro bono initiatives leveraged resources from across the firm and had an impact at a national level. The mini campaign provided ways to ensure that these efforts were coordinated and more effective and most impactful. And the community service activities that provided staff direct interaction with the wounded warriors and families created really unique insights that they could help their clients serve their clients. And it enhanced the quality and credibility of our consulting with them. These efforts are a compelling part of our value proposition for candidates as well as for staff. Many staff did serve in the military, and they have a personal connection and appreciation for the community and their needs. And it was also noted that the community activities give the staff that are healthcare professionals, because we have a health line of business, direct access to the soldiers and their families, and that puts them in a better position to help them and to help their clients. The volunteer testimonials that were included in the nomination package were truly inspiring and passionate. Another finalist in the category was an individual, and he was in our San Diego office, and he leveraged his own experience growing up in that community to provide greater community awareness and resources around gang prevention and intervention. He put his own personal self at risk in meeting with gang members, meeting with kids at risk, their families, schools, teachers, and he made a tangible difference in that community in driving down the gang activity and keeping kids from joining gangs. Another woman, interestingly enough, was a finalist out of San Diego as well, and she had a passion around the breast cancer. And so she started getting involved with San Diego's Race for the Cure, which was fortuitous because they were about to disband it. They had only a couple hundred participants. They had raised $12,000, and the organization, the Susan G. Komen organization, really wasn't willing to continue to support it as one of its efforts. So she got involved, and in 3 short years, she turned it around to where they had almost 3,000 participants and raised almost $500,000 in just 3 years. Wow. And she did that by taking on responsibility for that. The San Antonio office had the opportunity to work with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. They have an event every year. This group probably is aware of it, Light the Night. And the San Antonio group got more and more involved with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to the point that they actually took over the entire event after being involved with them for about 3 years. So they no longer have to hire an event planner. They no longer have to organize a whole bunch of volunteers. The Booz Allen staff does that. And these are actually pretty junior people, because I interviewed about 23 of them because I did the due diligence for this one. And it was really remarkable. I mean, they're setting up the cones for the routes, they're getting parking, they're getting all the vendors for the food, and they talked about the qualifications it gave them to do work with their clients around logistical planning and budget management. So it's not just fundraising, which they did a lot of that as well, but it really was going to the core of the mission for that society to allow them to do the work that they need to do. They didn't need to be focused on this actual event. And it was the 9th most successful Light the Night event in the country. And they named a research grant after Booz Allen as a result of the work that they did on that one. So I could go on and on about the great work that our staff do. They do it because they care. and they are really making a difference in the communities that they live in. That's what's important to them. The stability and quality of our workforce are directly related to how we develop our people. And we understand that professional development comes in many forms. So we do offer a host of tools and resources to our staff in the form of training and other things. But most adults learn most by experience and by being around people that do great things. And so these community service efforts really make a difference. We took it to a new level as it relates to community service in our focus on development. And we created a leadership invitational program for our most talented, our 60 most talented senior associates, the high potentials in the firm. And the program is a mix of education, exposure, and experiences for these emerging leaders. And what they will be doing as part of that program, in addition to some coaching and some other classroom types of activities, there are 5 nonprofits that we have researched and identified meaningful projects for them to work on. So they will have 5 pro bono projects. They will present them. All the partners will be invited to a presentation where they will share what they have come up with and the work that they're doing on that pro bono. So we're pretty excited about that. We also connect our community service to our diversity initiatives. Diversity is an important element for most companies because of the demographics that you're trying to attract as well as retain. And all of our employee forums are established for affinity purposes, but in each and every one of them, part of their charter is community service as well. So our Latin American forum has a holiday party that they do in the Hispanic community that has gone from 200 children attending with their families to over 1,000. So they connect not only the community service, but also their affinity for their employee, the employee forum and the diversity dimension of that. So I've given you a long list of things that we do as it relates to our corporate citizenship programs. And I do think that they make a difference for us in being able to attract and retain talent, but also to develop it. Because you've heard me talk about the qualifications and skills that they get that they wouldn't be able to get in their client work, and that prepares them to do better work. It also helps them to demonstrate Booz Allen's core values, which are very meaningful to us and are part of our assessment process annually. It creates an awareness outside of Booz Allen as to who we are and what we do and what we stand for. It does help us to recruit and retain employees. It facilitates team building and networking, that connection that staff can make. When I talked to the partner that was in our San Antonio office about the Light the Night, he was just effusive about his ability to interact with junior staff, but he just really wouldn't have had an opportunity before. He said, who would know that Rachel was out there doing these great things? It was because he was involved and they were involved in the community service. He would not have come in contact with them just as a result of the normal course of work. Creates opportunities for staff to develop and apply their professional skills, and creates opportunities for the staff to interact with not only the senior leaders, but also senior clients. Many of our clients are involved in the same activities that we are. And so the opportunity to interact with them, their colleagues obviously, as well as industry peers. And to demonstrate thought leadership and develop intellectual capital that helps us in our business, but also in our communities. It's instilling pride in our workforce. When they're wearing those red t-shirts, walking in Light the Night or Race for the Cure, or the Whitman Walker, AIDS Walk, any of those, when they're wearing those red shirts, there's a real sense of pride. And we hire more than half of our staff from employee referrals. And a big part of that is because they are so proud of the firm that they work for, and it has very much to do with the involvement in the community. And many of them cite that as the reason why they come, and it's the reason why they stay. So I hope that was helpful to you in terms of how we think about community involvement and the importance that it has in our firm and to our staff.
Thank you, Betty. It's fairly obvious that Booz Allen's corporate social responsibilities is driven by the passion that Betty told us about, by the employees of Booz Allen Hamilton, making a positive and sustainable impact in communities all around the country and all around the globe. We have time, if you're open, for some questions. If you have some questions, if you don't mind, just really loud so we can hear you all the way up here, and Betty will take them.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for that, Betty. My name is Lalita Advani from Credit Suisse, and really do appreciate your feedback because our experience is very similar with the value. I was wondering if you had measured in a sort of a statistical way the business impact of everything you've been speaking about, because that's a topic.
In each and every one of the cases that we go through the submission, we measure the sustainable and the financial impact. Whether it was qualifications that we were able to add to a proposal that staff had. I will tell you, the one with the Wounded Warriors, we know that there are a number of contracts that we won because of the knowledge and insight that our staff had by the work that they did in supporting the Wounded Warriors. And then the passion that the clients saw. They saw us there at Walter Reed. They saw us in these settings, you know, having a holiday party for the families, those kinds of things. So that, you know, we won work, and we attributed, in that case in particular, to the work that we did in the community. But there's a lot of instances like that. And like I said, the due diligence that we do for this award, because it is a big deal, it's, they get $5,000 each member of the team. And I will tell you, they wouldn't tell you, we wouldn't ask, but many of them give that money to the organizations that they're working with as a donation. But in those due diligences, we quantify what the impact was we also look for if people got promoted as a result of it, because of the skills that they developed that they were able to bring into the workforce, but also whether it enabled them to participate in contracts and proposals and actually win work.
Thank you.
Steve?
Steve Bell with American Security.
Hey.
You know, when I was at Booz Allen, they didn't take into consideration community service in the annual review around competencies. And I think I heard you say it's become more integrated in how you look at employees.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and we have an assessment process that is unrivaled. It is incredibly rigorous. It is a 360 peer process with committees, and it's very, very rigorous, very time consuming. But as part of that, it's competency based. And so there are different competencies at each level, and people development is in all of those, collaboration, those kind of teamwork, those are all competencies that are in there in addition to consulting skills, building business, those kinds of things. And staff will, in their self-assessment, and then what the person doing their assessment will hear is they demonstrated those competencies, particularly around leadership, teamwork, collaboration, as part of their community service work. And it's just as relevant and counts just as much as if they demonstrated those in their client work. So it is very much part of how we think about how people develop is through community service. Because our clients are pretty strict in terms of, you know, you have to have done these 5 things before you can get paid this rate or do this work. And so being able to say that, yes, they did do that work. They did it, you know, for this organization, here's what they did. We actually can count those as true qualifications, and so they are included in our assessment process. And they're also often cited as the development action for folks. So we do the competency assessment, but then there's also development actions that are defined at the beginning of every year, and demonstrating them through community service is often part of the development actions.
Hi, good morning. Can you talk a little bit more about what you see in the trends of employees coming into the workplace, and dive a little deeper into what they expect of their employers? I mean, we hear millennials. I saw this fabulous billboard over by Times Square last night, and it says, overeducated, underemployed, and wildly motivated. So address that.
Yeah, so seeing a lot. They want control over their life. They want to have it all, and now, and they expect to be talking to the CEO. So you know there are high expectations, but there's also a tremendous amount of energy and passion and skills and knowledge and really experience. So many of them, if not most of them, I would say, come having been very involved in some community activity, whether it was in college, whether it was where they were working, whether it was just the way that they were grown up. A lot of schools have that as a requirement. I know my kids did when they were in school, and so they're just used to that. So they expect to come in and be able to get involved in things. And I know before I came to Booz Allen, other organizations that I've been with, they were very strict about what that you could do on, and have the company's name associated with it. And that won't play. They want to go after the things that they are passionate about because it's really their time. And they just want to be enabled and supported and valued for those contributions for the things that they really care about. And they really do want to learn. I just think, I remember years and years ago, I had about 70 co-ops or interns, I guess they were summer interns. And I was doing a mass marketing campaign. I was when I was at IBM. And these kids were like, they just wanted to learn. It was just, give me some more. What can I do? Can I do some research? Can I do that? I'm like, good grief, I'm paying you $12.50 an hour just to do what I told you to do. But that wasn't enough for them. They wanted to learn. They wanted to develop. And so, sometimes in our client work, we think it's really exciting, but some of it, is, lower level work that isn't as, worthy of them as they think it might be. And so the community service is a way for them to be able to do those things. Like I said, this young woman that I was talking to, Rachel in San Antonio, she was probably 4 or 5 years out of college, and she really was running this $1 million event for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. She's meeting with all of these, industry leaders in the community. She's got a team of people that do whatever she tells them to do. And they're just looking for that where they can make a difference. They want what they're doing to be important. And unfortunately, we can't always have that in the day-to-day work. But to be able to supplement that with supporting them and doing it in their communities is really important, and they value that.
How do you think that will transform the workplace in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think you'll see more companies embracing the notion that let employees, follow their passion as it relates to community service. I think this notion of, your affinity in the community has to be our affinity, and you have to focus on the things that are important to us. I think that's just not going to play. I think they are going to expect that we are supportive of not only their work-life balance as it relates to their family, but the things that they are interested in as human beings in their community. So I think that it will transform. It'll probably transform the way giving is done in terms of where the checks are written and where the sponsorship goes, because I think companies are going to have to listen to their employees and what's important to them. Yeah.
The alumni network that Booz Allen has developed over the years has, I think, it's a lot. It becomes part of who you are. And with people now, particularly young people, the projection is changing jobs every 4, 5, 6 years. I'm wondering how important the development of the alumni network has become in terms of current employee engagement, future client engagement, perhaps re-employment of former employees, and kind of the network that creates, how that might be a business development.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We, while we focus on retention and we'd like to keep everyone, it isn't always bad. We recognize that, and we don't fight it. If our clients want to hire our folks, we don't have any you can't hire people, or we're going to, bad mouth our clients, say, oh, you don't want to go work for them, because we ultimately believe that will bring business to us, because they love working for Booz Allen. They had an opportunity someplace else. We have found over and over again they're going to end up hiring us because they know the kind of work that we can do. They know the kind of value that we can bring as a consulting firm. So we value that, and we keep in touch with folks when they leave. As you know, they're included when we do press. We get the clips every day that where Booz Allen is mentioned. There's almost always a Booz Allen alum that's listed there as having been quoted. So we find that alumni network is very important, and we do rehire. I've known organizations that if you left, it's like sorry, we're divorced, and we're not going there again. And we welcome. We call them comeback kids, and we welcome them back, and we do a lot of rehiring because They went someplace to get some more experience and get some other things, and they knew how good it was, so they came on back to Booz Allen.
So let me go back to your last comment before this. And there's got to be a tremendous amount of creative tension between supporting your employees' interests and marketing interests of any kind of operation that's looking to make profit, right? So how do you align those? You say that in 5 to 10 years, you think employees will be driving them. Well, the employees' interests have absolutely nothing to do with the business that you're in. How do you make that argument?
You know, for us,
Those corporate dollars.
we don't really make that distinction. We already are there, where if our employees want to get involved with it, and it's a socially responsible organization, we will support them. If
But you
they,
support them with corporate dollars.
we do. If any employee that reports 40 hours of volunteer time gets a donation of $250 for their organization, and they can have 2 organizations in a given year. And then there's also a sliding scale, so if there are more hours on a board, the dollars go up. And we really don't distinguish or try to say, well, that's not one of the ones that we do. Because we believe that the employees, it being employee-centric is important. And I think we're a bit ahead of our time, but we've been there for a long time.
So to me, that sounds like a dollars for doers kind of program, basically. What about your grant making? Do you all have a separate grant making?
We do. It's not large. That is not really where we do most of our dollar giving, if you will, through the pro bono, because that's real revenue we're giving away. So it's mostly through the pro bono program. So we don't do a lot of the big check writing. That's not. We'll do things like we did we supported through the Smithsonian, the Hopper exhibit. We did the Norman Rockwell exhibit, things like that. Those are big dollar items, but that's not our primary way that we get involved in the community.
One last question. The consultants are often, I think all of us are often very busy. Consultants are particularly busy, and they're traveling. How do you find people manage the work-life balance and just doing the work and also having time to do a little volunteer stuff?
I really don't know. Honestly. I talk to these people, and when I do these, and I don't know how they do it. But they just, get up every day and they're up all night. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I did this due diligence for this fellow. In fact, we said we should name the award after him. He was in Texas also, as it turns out, in our Houston office. And the things that this young man had done, and he was about 27 years old, but he had built a water tower down in, South America. He was the president of the Hispanic Engineer Society in Houston. He was on the alumni committee for Rice University. I mean, he was driving people around in the hurricane, and I don't know how he did it all. It was just stunning. But I guess you find time for the things you want to do. And he was also very successful in his client work. So I've never seen it where it was that they were giving away their professional time or credibility or professionalism to do that. They seem to be able to do it all. So I don't know, but thank God for them.
Let's give Betty another round of applause.